We are back playing with the Riley RMB again. Let's get going. So the end of the last video, I was in a rush trying to beat some rain and get this thing to try to fire up and see if it ran any better. So I didn't actually mention that, yes, I had gone through the valve adjustment on it. Now, the specs in the workshop manual here is 3 thousandths on the intake and 4 thousandths on the exhaust, hot. And now that's on the 2.5 liter up until they introduced the RME in late 52. Well, this is a later RMB, so it won't be the updated head design that they put on the RME. And on that one, they said 11 thousandths all the way around. Well, obviously I am not going to be warming this thing up, getting it up to hot temperature, because at the time I had no carbs on it and we can't put coolant in it yet. So what I did was I just added 3 thousandths to those clearances, and I set them at 6 and 7, because that's about the average of what the differences are called out for between hot and cold on most engines. So after going over into the parts room and digging through the parts that I had for this thing, I dug out that gasket set, and it was a lower conversion set, not a head gasket set. So my memory fails me yet again. So I don't have valve cover gaskets, but local auto parts store, we did have this gaskets material. It's just cork gasket material, 10 inches wide, 26 inches long. So what we'll just do is make a set of gaskets. So I'll take my valve covers, we'll put a little bit of gasket sealer on them, and then we'll set them on the gasket material, weight them down lightly, and let the gasket sealer cure. And once it's cured, then I'll come back with the knife that's given in the little gasket kit here, and we'll just trim around the outer edges of the valve cover, using the valve cover as a guide. And then we'll flip it over, poke through, and then just trim around the inner edge, and we'll have a set of valve cover gaskets. So now we got the valve covers back on the motor, so shouldn't have any, at least noticeable, oil leaks on the top end here. I went ahead and replaced this one coolant hose that goes down to the radiator. I think that's actually was originally supposed to be for the heater, but it's just been looped around. But I'm going to put a new one on there, because that one was absolutely not going to hold any coolant. It was splitting all over the place. The rest of these hoses actually look pretty decent. I put some coolant in it, and it's not holding coolant. It's dripping somewhere off the back of the engine, and I can't quite see in there good enough. So we need to get it into the shop, get it up on the lift, and look at it from underneath. In order to do that, we need to see if it'll actually move under its own power. So what I've done now is I got the solenoid replaced with the one that came with the car. It's just a basic Ford solenoid. Now this thing would have been originally wired positive ground, and whoever did all this wiring here was actually setting things up like for negative ground, which doesn't matter. We can hook it up either way. It's just a matter of swapping the wires on the coil. But the coil was already wired to the distributor as positive ground, so we're just going to leave it positive ground. So the red wire wound up going to negative and the black wire on the positive, the way that they had this thing set up. But that's, I just have to know that myself. I went ahead and I've zip tied all this stuff up here just to keep it from rattling around, and so I can see oil pressure, water temperature. And I picked up a just basic key switch at the auto parts store, got that put here, and I made a quick little bracket here that screws into 2 existing holes that were already here in the wood. And since this is all pretty redneck setup here, I went ahead and hit it with a little bit of chrome paint, you know, just for a little bit of class. I still haven't done anything yet to set up a fuel system on this thing yet, so I just have a little bit of fuel in the float bowls, and let's see if the clutch works. Feels like it might. Yep, we have clutch, but there's nothing there for brakes. It kind of felt like the clutch might work, and it kind of felt like the brakes possibly might. But now I can go ahead and hook up the throttle cable, and the next step will be trying to get it into the shop so we can lift it up, put it on the rack, see if we can figure out where the coolant leak is coming from, and if we can get something to happen with the brake system. So now we know there is no brakes. I'm pretty sure, about 99% sure, that this is the actual brake fluid reservoir, but I can't get the top off of it. So what I'm going to do is get this bracket off of here, get it in the shop, and get it soaking until I can get the top off of it, and then we can try to get some fluid in there once we get it in the shop and see what we can make happen.